Now I'll share my thoughts on my favorite camera supports. Hey, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. I like to use a lightweight tripod like this when traveling on a plane because it shaves a few pounds off of our luggage weight.
This is my favorite tripod. It's a good balance of durability, weight, and versatility, and it can get quite low. One way is to mount its center column sideways. A quicker way to get the camera almost as low with this tripod is to simply angle two of the legs all of the way out, so the center column is tilted, like this. Or the way to get it as low as possible, just tilt the tripod so the tripod head is resting on the ground. This is more stable than hand holding. With the camera this low, it causes any foreground grass to act as a green vignette. And you'll get this effect of blurring the foreground grass. If the center post can be removed as it can on this tripod, you can invert it to hold the camera low to the ground. In the water, inverting the center post on the tripod is the best way to get the camera low to just above the water's surface.
Live view allows you to compose the image on the back of your camera's LCD screen without getting into the water up to your mouth. Of course, mirrorless cameras can do this too, as well as focus very well unassisted.
If the water is calm, you get a really nice mirrored image.
If you have to get the camera higher than you can see through the viewfinder, you can use live view to compose, holding the camera above your head. The bright spots behind the subject are currently in vogue, but that stuff may not always be in style because it really creates distractions. And anything that violates our innate senses eventually go out of style. Holding the camera high above my head avoided those hot spots. When I need a high angle, I'll grab a ladder, which every home has, and use my Manfrotto 475B tripod. It can get very high and quite low. It's also the one I'll use with very long lenses, since it's super stable. But it's too heavy to use as my standard tripod. While I really love my pistol grip, the 300mm lens is pretty heavy, and because of that, as well as being a very long focal length, it's prone to vibration problems. So now I use the heavier tripod and a heavy-duty ball head.
At least once each year, I open up my tripods and clean and lubricate them. Also, be sure to avoid sand in aluminum tripods. I ruined one with just one trip to the beach. I'm amazed when I visit other photographer studios at how their equipment is in such disrepair. Anything that moves needs to be adjusted from time to time for optimal performance. I prefer to use a tripod because it frees me to work with the lighting. But there are times when a tripod is too cumbersome and slow. This is especially and obviously true with most action and sports images. Those are the times I'll shoot handheld.
Tripod or no tripod? Well, the answer depends. And it depends on the amount of light you have, whether or not you prefer to compose methodically or quickly, whether or not you'll need to create multiple layers without moving the camera to composite into one final image, whether or not you have lighting equipment you want to work with, whether or not you want to carry a camera on your body, whether or not you prefer to interact with the subject behind the camera or off to the side, your personal tolerance for noise and sharpness. But to the technical aspect, noise and image sharpness decline at higher ISOs. That all depends on the camera, but we can see here that getting into the 2000 plus range starts to be a concern for wall portraits. Many lenses today have vibration reduction or image stabilization that allow handheld shooting at about 2 to 3 or even more stops slower than without this feature. This reduces the need for a tripod. Lens-based anti-shake systems work very well. If I have bright light, I'll use it to save time and hassle. This is not the way to hold and focus a lens. It's a very weak position and it can lead to more camera shake. I would think that everyone would want to use the strongest and most stable method of holding a lens, whether it's long or short. This is pretty basic stuff, and yet I see a lot of new photographers doing it wrong. This is the way to do it. With your focus hand under the lens, you can rest your elbow against your chest, giving you a more stable triangle of support. This results in sharper images. So are camera manufacturers' camera shake reduction methods as good as a tripod? Nope. It's better than freehand, but it's not a substitute for a tripod. It's only there to help in those times when you don't have access to or you can't use a tripod.
By positioning the quick release adapter near its ball mount, the Manfrotto 322 RC2 pistol grip is built to minimize susceptibility to vibration, while retaining the ability to release the grip without the potential for the camera tipping over, as normal ball heads do. Using an electronic shutter release is another effective way to avoid vibration. However, because the shutter release requires constant pressure for the camera's autofocus, a Bogen pistol grip is needed also because it allows one-handed operation.
If you're using a mirrorless camera, you don't have to worry about this mirror slap vibration. But if you're using an SLR, the best way to get sharper images is to use the mirror up feature. Tripping the reflex mirror up long before the image is exposed eliminates the mirror slap from causing camera shake. And there are some shutter speeds that are particularly troublesome.
And how would that relate to a real-world portrait image? Let's compare two simple head and shoulders available light images. I've found that most tripod-induced shake occurs at speeds longer than 1/60th of a second. Even though this was done with an electronic shutter release, it's still not sharp. But tripping the mirror up eliminates that mirror slap problem. Of course, this is only for static subjects. You wouldn't want to do this for pets or little kids or action things like sports.
Speaking of sharpness, this image was done in 1998 with film, so it's pretty old. But I do remember that it was done at 8 seconds. So what allowed me to do that was she's leaning up against the piano. So as long as they have something solid to lean against, they can hold still for a pretty long time. Ironically, very long shutter speeds can be sharper than short shutter speeds because vibration from the mirror in a fraction of a second comprises a much smaller percentage of the overall long exposure. Or you can go with a mirrorless camera to eliminate the camera shake that's caused by the mirror. They also have the ability to follow focus on the eyes of the subject, and that overcomes the focus shift problem SLR cameras have when tilting to recompose. Most longer lenses include a vibration reduction feature, and some cameras have that feature built into the body, so all lenses can be stabilized. So here's my evaluation of my current lenses and techniques to reduce blurred images due to camera shake. I'd suggest you read your camera lens manual and do some research to see which image stabilization mode you might need for your particular needs. Here's another option to give you sharper images. Electronic flash makes a very short duration pulse. So if you overpower the ambient light with that flash, you'll get better sharpness because that flash pulse freezes motion. Let's begin here. Apparently, I tripped the shutter release too soon after I flipped up the mirror. The camera was still shaking too much. On this one I did it right. I waited about 2 seconds after I flipped out the mirror, and the vibrations settled down. However, on this one I overpowered the ambient light by about a stop, and that flash gave me a sharper result. But there's another factor at work on this particular image. The flash was the bare head without the softbox. Therefore, the shadows appear sharper, giving the illusion of an even sharper image. Lest you think you can get by with a cheaper lens, forget about it. This is me at 5.6 on an inexpensive 28-105 Canon lens. This was shot under the same conditions with the 70-200 2.8 lens that I had at the time. And the newer version of this lens is even sharper. It pays to get the best tools that you can get. We use them every day. So don't scrimp on the glass that all your images pass through.